Hi, this is Nathan from the AARPG podcast. A few months ago, I did a little video on Krotos Studio. It's a sound design tool that's free, and I thought it was great for TTRPG podcasters like myself to spiff up their sound design for their shows. And they just recently released a Soundpack, an expansion pack for Krotos Studio called Genesis, and it adds 4 new categories and a bunch of new sound banks on the existing 4 categories, so you can really get a lot more use out of the tool. And I find it's got some great non-literal uses too. So I want you to think about that while you're watching this, and how can I use this in a non-literal fashion. So I'll give you some examples, but they did give this to me because they saw my previous video and they liked it, and they gave this to me on the condition that I did another one, and I was all over that. It's only $29. I would have bought it anyway, but they also gave me a coupon code for 10% off. I'll put that in the details below. One of the reasons I'm super excited about this product is because, like many of you, this is a passion project, and real life, your regular job, family, friend obligations, just having downtime is super important. And this tool, I find it's very easy to come up with some cool sound effects very quickly, and it saves me a lot of time and trouble. Case in point, the episode I'm working on as part of this demo is a week late, so I'm still in the dialogue editing phase, but I'm going to show you how I would use it for real. Hopefully I can improvise something pretty cool for you to see and kind of get your own ideas on how to use this tool to create your own royalty-free sound effects for your show. All right, so we're looking at my desktop right now, and one of the free enhancements they've done to Krotos Studio is create a standalone version. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. I'm not in a DAW. I'm not running a VST right now. This is just a standalone application on my desktop. And you can get in there and start making sound effects without going into your DAW. Or maybe what you use to edit your podcast doesn't support virtual instruments, so something like Audacity or some video editor. So I'm going to start off by just running through the new categories they added to Krotos Studio. They had ambiences, but they've added cinematic. They've added interfaces. They've added vehicles, and they added weapons. So I'm going to demonstrate the standalone version just by showing you a few of these new sounds and sound banks. So explosions are always super fun. You notice that the interface is different from the ones that we had before. We have a close and a far. So if I click close, over on the right-hand side, I've got debris, and I've got pitch, so I can have a high-pitch explosion, a low pitch. I can get rid of the debris. I can make it far away. And if you listen, you can hear there's a tail on there, so you can really sell that. If I take the puck and click on the left-hand side, of course it pans left, pans right, pretty cool. And then you'll see after I wait for the tail to finish, I've got this bounce option. I just dragged it over here. And it's what I just recorded. So I can go through and record a bunch of sound effects. So maybe I want some gunfire in the distance, some gangs are fighting. Change the pitch a little bit. And then go through and just wait a second, bounce, and I'm done. So pretty cool. So it's quick and dirty. Inspiration hits you. You can just hop right in here and just start churning out sounds. So another new area is vehicles. So we've got some wet driving in the rain. We've got windshield wipers. I've got windshield rain, roof rain, interior sounds. So this is good for if you're, I probably see it more for if you're doing a lot of dialogue in a modern campaign inside a vehicle, you can kind of simulate that feeling. Interface is new also. So these are great for sci-fi, cyberpunk. You can use this as part of something like a cyber deck, or you punch something into a tablet, or whatever, things like that. But you can find some interesting uses for these outside of that. And the last new category is cinematic. So in the cinematic category, we've got 7 new, I'm calling them sound banks, a lot of impacts and whooshes and drones and things like that. Things you can kind of use in the background of your story to kind of enhance the mood, make it a little darker, make it a little creepier, scarier. My favorite two are probably eerie scene. So let me demonstrate that real quick. This is great for horror. So I just click on the puck and drag it. So, I mean, nice ambience, spooky hallways, dungeons, monsters creeping up behind you. And I just clicked and dragged bounce, and I've got it over here. That's all I had to do, and I can just keep going with that. And away we go. So that's standalone. Why don't I go ahead and show you my session where I'm working on episode 8 of our Sex, Drugs, and Saving Throws D&D 5e dark comedy story arc, and I'll show you how I would use it in a session. All right, in my session here, this is episode 8 of our Sex, Drugs, and Saving Throws D&D arc. So a lot of the examples here I'm going to give here are fantasy examples, but hopefully you can use some of the tips and tricks I use to work on whatever you're working on, whether it's a sci-fi game, horror game, modern game, whatever. When I get these markers and regions from my friend and buddy and partner Matt, he marks these green areas where he wants some sound effects. So there's a list here. So I bring up my marker list, and there's a few different things in here, but really what I thought would be most interesting was this explosion area. So let's go ahead and listen to that real quick.
All will worship me! And he explodes.
He totally could have.
So the big antagonist explodes. I don't want to spoil anything, but let's listen to. So first thing I do is listen for more context. And side note, I usually don't start working on sound effects until I finish editing the dialogue, which I haven't done yet because I'm a week behind, which is being late is one of the reasons why I love Krotos Studio. I can go through, and instead of spending 20 minutes, half an hour looking for sounds and from a sound library and fiddling with those, I can spend 5 minutes making my own sounds, and it's something custom for me that's unique and royalty free and all that good stuff. So love it. It's a huge lifesaver. So context. So I want to start back here where I put this marker and listen from there.
You were all beneath me, and he begins to float, and he's sort of like arcane energy begins to like stretch between his hands. He's like, I can see the ends of the universe. I have transcended. His body begins like waves of magic starts coming out, and he's about 10 feet off the ground, and he's like, I don't need this contest anymore. I am no longer a feeble elf. I am a god. All will worship me. And he
4. So there's like 4 things I could play with in here, rather than just I could just do the explosion here. Let me do that real quick. Weapon, explosion. And there, I've done what he wanted. Let me line it up here. And
explode.
I could be done. That's all it needs. But I like to do a little bit extra work because Because and I want it to sound more interesting, and I want kind of the people listening to kind of get an idea for the scene. So let's set the scene a little bit, and let's go use the new Genesis Soundpack features to demonstrate that. So the first step is there's probably a little bit of a build up in tension as this is about to happen. This is a lot of narration from Matt here.
Roll.
He's never
No, it's his go. He floats up.
One of the coolest areas, which is there's a ton of new sounds, and is this cinematic area. So I could use Eerie Scene. This is one of my favorite ones. Listen to some of that. And these are, I guess we call them downers because they're going down instead of going up. So I don't know if those fit the scene, but maybe a riser. And you notice when I click on strings riser, it started right away because this autoplay feature. I'm going to turn that back on and drag the puck around so you can hear what these 4 different quadrants sound like. And you'll recognize them because like every horror movie, every suspense, even like reality shows use these type of strings to set the mood and put you on edge a little bit. So autoplay. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to listen to him narrate and move the puck around and try to build that mood that I'm looking for. So I'm going to start all the way back here and hit autoplay on.
He floats up.
He's never
No, it's his go. He floats up, and he's like, you can see his eyes are like glazed over. You've seen this look like in Gromarsh most days, and he's sort of like, I can see it all. You are all beneath me, and he begins to float, and he's sort of like arcane energy begins to like stretch between his hands. Like, I can see the ends of the universe. I have transcended. His body begins like waves of magic starts coming out, and he's about 10 feet off the ground, and he's like, I don't need this contest anymore. I am no longer a feeble elf. I am a god. All will worship me. And he explodes.
He totally did a low pan.
I just performed that whole thing and I just dragged the bounce in here and add it to my scratch track on top. And I probably wouldn't have it that loud. I'd probably have it like way down here, faded in, faded out.
Body, no. He's never.
I
he
thought that was
floats
Demon's
up.
roll.
He's never
No, it's his go. He floats up, and he's like,
fuck.
you can see his eyes are like glazed over. You
So I'm setting the mood with some background droning and risers. So I like that. That just adds tons of mood to it. Super useful. You can have a lot of fun with these. And one of the things I want to stress here is that you don't have to be super literal with your sound effects creation. There's some things that I'm going to do and show you that wouldn't be, that aren't completely literal, but I think they work. Next up, so the levitation sound. I'm going to just mute the music for mute the background sound for the rest of this demo. So for the levitation, want to go to another new tool, another new sound. So whooshes are still here. The original 4 hybrid electrical, fire, and air are still there. The new one is designed air. And this got a lot of neat, very magical sounding feel. It could be, work for sci-fi too, but for my purposes, it's magic. So I'm going to drag the puck around. Click. So these are all whooshes. So they start small, get loud, and they decrease again. For this levitation, I want it to be a little bit longer. So I'm going to take this duration knob and turn it to the left. If it were me designing the software, I probably would have put the duration, turn it up to make it longer, but that's not the way it works. So turning it down makes it longer. So I'm going to click between pulse and airy deep. And that's something I played around before, and I think it's a pretty decent levitation type sound. And I know that's right around here, around this marker. So let's listen to that real quick.
All beneath me, and he begins to float, and he's sort of like arcane energy.
So arcane energy is next. Whooshes, I think, are perfect for arcane energy, and I could go back to still use a different part of this designed air to kind of simulate that. All right, let that go. Bounce that in.
Arcane energy begins to like stretch between his hands. Like
I would jazz it up. Electricity always sounds kind of magical to me, so I'm going to lean into. Let's listen to this. So I'm going to go between pulse and sparks here, and wait for the bounce and start. Drop that in here.
Like arcane energy begins to like stretch between his hands. Like I can see the ends of the universe.
The nice thing about that is like this original sound is fairly mono, but you can see this is this electrical sound goes from left to right, so that adds some movement to the arcing between his hands. So what's after that?
Energy begins to like stretch between his hands. Like I can see the ends of the universe. I have transcended. His body begins like waves of magic starts coming out.
So waves of magic. So this is still the same kind of energy that we're dealing with. So we don't want to change it too much. So I think I want to go back to the designed air and build on that a little bit and stay in that same family. Again, reduce the duration. Let's try a couple more things. So I'm going to take that one.
His body begins like waves of magic starts coming out, and he's about 10 feet off the ground, and he's like,
try this. So just in that section there, add that to this.
And he's about 10 feet off the ground, and he's like, I don't need this contest anymore. I am no longer a feeble elf. I am a god. All will worship me. And
So, explosion. I can keep that there, but what if I jazz that up a little bit by adding an impact from this cinematic section? So there's a few areas we didn't listen to. Giant hit. It's got a little Brahm in there. That's pretty cool. Yeah. This didn't seem what I really wanted, so let's try this riser. That's not bad. That's big. So I'm going to go between these two. All right, let's see what happens here. So bounce that down. Yeah, it's pretty lined up. They're probably going to distort a little bit, but let's see what happens here.
all will worship me. And he explodes.
He totally did a...
So let's listen to the whole thing together.
I can see it all. You were all beneath me, and he begins to float, and he's sort of like arcane energy begins to like stretch between his hands. Like, I can see the ends of the universe. I have transcended. His body begins like waves of magic starts coming out, and he's about 10 feet off the ground. And he's like, I don't need this contest anymore. I am no longer a feeble elf. I am a god. All will worship me. And he explodes.
I'll probably end up changing this piece right here. But again, just a few minutes. I've done this whole scene. It's a lot more sophisticated than just here, drop an explosion in. So it's all mine. I performed it. You could have a ton of fun with this for what they're charging. It is pretty cool. So 2 more things I want to show you. One real quick is that with things like footsteps, they added the ability to use your MIDI keyboard to trigger different types of footfalls. So let me just open up my keyboard here so you can see what I'm doing. So if I press C3 on my keyboard, I can do that. And you can see there's a C sharp 3 and a D3 for a scuff and a stop. So there we go. And being able to pan this and pitch this, so I can actually walk from one side of the scene pretty cool. So you'll see these triggers in a few of these. They've added these triggers in a few of these different categories, which is super fun. And if you do have a MIDI keyboard or use an on-screen keyboard, you can. It helps you perform these things a little bit better and you get more creative. So love it, love it, love it. Great addition. Thank you, Krotos. Last but not least, I do want to again urge you to think a little bit outside of the box when you're doing your sound design. So again, don't be so literal, and you can get a lot more mileage out of your sound library and your tools like Krotos Studio if you try to think of other ways to create these fantastical sounds. So one thing I picked out in here was there's a flying demon called a Vrock that I want to make a flying sound. How do I make a flying sound with Krotos Studio Genesis? So let's listen to that.
This Vrock springs into flight.
All right, so springs into flight. How can I do flying sounds with what we have here? So stay with me here. I might lose you in a second, but I'm going to go to the vehicle, and I'm going to go to wet driving. So we got interior sounds, roof rain, wind rain, and wipers. That could work. I got to get rid of that motor sound. That's easy enough. So I'm going to turn off autoplay, turn it on again. So, and just take that, bounce that in here. And let's take a good look at that file. So you can hear in this little section.
So actually
I'm going to solo this so you can actually hear it. I got to get rid of that. You can see that motor sound. Get rid of this right here. So no more motor sound. I can take this. I can hold down my control key and drag it over again. So that's probably close enough. So this is a very low sound. It'd probably be hard to hear on like phone speakers and stuff like that. So I want to give it a little bit more of a wing sound, and I can do that with, I think, what works is the basic cloth sound Soundpack from the original Krotos Studio Free. We don't want keys. Bag has got some jangly bits in it, so I think I want to go either jacket or leather. I think maybe a little bit between jacket and leather is probably good. Okay. I'm going to use my keyboard here, and I will have to probably edit it to really make it fit, but I'm going to try to perform this using my keyboard here to match up with the sync of the windshield wipers. So I hit play, and I'm going to perform this.
Springs into flight and basically flies down right in here. And
I was a little early and late all over the place there, but I think you'll get the idea what I was trying to do. Again, the level is pretty low, so I'm going to boost that up a bit. Slide this over.
Light and basically flies down right in here.
First thing I'm going to do with this, I'm going to go in Reaper and I'm going to drop that half an octave.
Flight and basically flies down right in here. And
so I've got a flying sound from cloth sounds and windshield wipers. So that's it for this video. If you like what you heard, if you like what you saw, just leave me a comment, like, subscribe to our channel, watch our actual plays. And if you want to try out Krotos Studio, they do have the free version. And if you want to get the Genesis Soundpack, I do have a 10% off coupon down in the description, as well as an affiliate link where I get a little bit of commission if you buy their stuff through me. So you don't have to do that. I'm not your dad. So, but if you want to help out our channel, every little bit helps. So if you have other ideas for videos I could do, if you want to go into more into Reaper, if you want me to go into some of the other Krotos tools like Weaponizer, happy to do it. I just want to hear what people want, and I'll get to work. But thanks, and I'll see you next time.